Welcome to another fine edition, and it is, of Tech Talk Tuesday. One of your hosts, Matt Ray, and over to the next door square to me. Nope, wrong direction. Wrong. Bunk, bunk, bunk. There you go. Is Neil Tardy.
Man, mirroring is so hard.
I mean, both from an emotional sense and from a physical, spatial sense.
That's right.
Tech Talk Tuesday, where we cover a little bit of the news, what we think is the most important as it comes relative to technology and cryptocurrency and Neil's tie-dye shirt. Like, these are all subjects that may get covered.
That's right.
Yeah. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. You might have heard this because a lot of people are really knocking on TikTok, which is a funny phrase, and I just realized that. So there's a lot going on and a lot of concern over the quote-unquote spying that's happening with TikTok. And on the heels of that, Apple has discovered that several apps that are floating around in its app store are actually looking at your clipboard contents. And that may seem on the surface, I think, like not a big deal. Like, well, I'm copy and pasting like what? Like text? You are. But what kind of text are you typically copying and pasting? Things that you don't want to type in. Okay, cool. Well, then what are things that you don't typically want to type in? Probably crazy characters in your password. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about this, Neil?
I am absolutely shocked that it has taken this long for Apple to kind of realize this. Particularly because it feels like you and I, every time we try and deploy an app to Apple, we kind of just get slapped in the face almost with the review process, at least once, usually multiple times. And it just feels like, why aren't we, or why isn't Apple specifically like looking for these things? Particularly for a company that like likes to tout itself as very security conscious, like trying to protect its users, all of this stuff. This just feels like a huge oversight. I don't know, man. It feels pretty bad from where I sit, at least.
Yeah, and so I've been reading that apparently in the latest beta of iOS 14, which is not a mainstream release yet, and we won't see Gold Master for that for a month or so, maybe longer. But that there's a pop-up that basically indicates when an app is accessing the clipboard content. So there's a start. That's something that probably should have been there all along. But you were saying before we started, you were saying, like, you know, with just like we're victim of, we always come with best intentions of ease of use, I think, features, and it's hard to tell sometimes how they're going to get abused. But this one feels like something that probably somebody should have spoke up about.
Yeah, this just feels like almost obvious. And yeah, I mean, we were talking before, like you were saying about this, and like this is very much like when you release like a video game and then like the public finds all of these like bugs and hacks and stuff like that that you just can't catch in QA. But like this is pretty big. Like, this is a rather large security flaw. And I mean, I was just thinking about this as you said it. iOS 14. Like, so you're telling me that it took us 14 major iterations to get to the point where we can now see what apps are actually looking at my clipboard? Like, guys, like this is just a huge oversight. And like we're not perfect, but like I'm not asking you to be perfect here. That's right, you are. But yeah, this is just a big one that Apple just plain missed.
Yeah. And so just to be clear, we're not just picking on TikTok, and neither is this report. Going back to the page, I mean, the list of, they're calling it clipboard scrapers, but apps that are basically accessing the clipboard out of bounds from the context of its current kind of sandbox. It's fascinating, right? You have like ABC News, Al Jazeera, CBC News, which I'm guessing, if you're looking through these are probably using some sort of common framework or something that's probably like doing this. That doesn't make it okay. It's just interesting, right? You have HuffPost, Wall Street Journal. So you have all these news sites, but then look at these games. Like that's kind of fascinating, right? I mean, like Plants versus Zombie Heroes, right? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what are you doing, right? Old 8-ball pool, which I know that I, need to clipboard the crap out of stuff all the time for my 8-ball game. That's not true. I'm not sure what that's about, but yeah, just a lot of interesting stuff on here, including Viber. Like, they've popped up a few times. But yeah, just kind of interesting to see the full kind of breadth, I think, of the ones that have at least been caught thus far. And I think this is interesting, and maybe as you peel back the onion, we're probably going to find even more.
Yeah, I suspect that we will.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, moving from one tech giant to another, Amazon is finally kind of throwing its weight into the ring of self-driving cars. They have now acquired via $1 billion the company Zoox. Zoox has over 1,000 employees and has been working in the self-driving space for 6 years already. So they've been around for a while. But even though they've been around for 6 years, they have yet to deliver a prototype of their tech at all, which they reportedly say will be fully autonomous. It'll be able to drive on both city roads and highways with advanced features such as yielding to pedestrians, passing double parked vehicles, and making unprotected left and right hand turns at red traffic lights. There is also suspicion that Amazon is going to dump even more money into this to try and get them across the line and create its own fleet to try and rival Tesla. What do you think about this, Matt?
I learned about unprotected turns in health class, and avoid it. Like it's dangerous.
Yeah, what do you think about this, Matt? Like as a Tesla owner?
Well, I think to do it correctly, what they need to do is set an unrealistic target for when full self-driving will be available, and then enjoy the whooshing sound as that date goes right by, like Elon does, pretty much on a quarterly and yearly basis. I don't know. This is interesting. I mean, to go from not having anything tangible really to show to I don't know, like that's a pretty big leap, and I'm all about playing our cards kind of close to the vest, but I don't know, like that. Anytime you have investors, you can't really get away with that. So which leads me to believe that there's not some kind of like master tech that's that they're so far ahead on, and instead just behind.
I mean, what do you think the play here is for Amazon? Like, is this to like have the technology and then resell it to like other like automobile manufacturers, or is it to like actually become or like a rival of Tesla where they build up their own infrastructure and stuff? Like, what are you thinking here?
I mean, I think it makes the most sense, honestly, from augmenting their fleet for delivery, right? And for everything else that they're breaking into. I mean, if you'll recall, Amazon partnered up with Warren Buffett. Like, so you have Bezos, Buffett, Gates, and I feel like I'm missing someone else, partnered up on this health kind of initiative, right? So they're, we're targeting kind of like a health exchange and kind of taking on insurance. Who knows, right? This could be, you start to think about pickup, so one of the things that we learned, right, while we were dealing with the state with regards to at-risk populations is that transportation is like one of the big blockers, right? How am I going to get from A to B? And there's the bus, and there's all these mechanisms, but things cost money. And if you were to control kind of another piece of that infrastructure, you can help control. And I don't mean that in an insidious way, but again, right? Things start off very optimistic, and then sometimes they take a turn. But it's basically another piece of the supply chain, right? You basically can control that and say, okay, well, let's take that out of the equation because we've got you covered. And so you're lowering the barriers to entry for healthcare and things like that. So those are the two things immediately I thought of, was like their deliveries, which right? And if it helps them slow down when going through my neighborhood, I'm all about it, because I'm waiting for a kid to get hit any day. I'm kind of not joking. And but then I think from a healthcare perspective, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that we haven't even thought of. But these are smart people, right? They're thinking of ways that they're going to leverage this stuff. And maybe they don't even need it to pay off in the form of a tangible vehicle, right? I guess that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think that's where my mind goes, is like, I don't necessarily think that Amazon is going to like be building their own cars here. Like Tesla has way too large of an advantage there. And so, like, to me, if they want to get into like the automobile industry, like, it's going to be like selling this technology at some point. But yeah, I think what you said is very valid, in that, like, these are very smart people. This could be just another part of the supply chain that they're looking to grab, which is scary in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's valid too. I'm very interested to continue to watch what they do here, because I'm not exactly sure what their play is yet. So it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, neat. Well, I guess following on the back of our prior story, where you were kind of, you mentioned you were like, oh, you should really listen to the community, right? And you should really be kind of in tune with what's going on there. Maybe like video games. Well, here we are. Amazon's shooter Crucible, right? Which was really kind of it kind of got launched and no one knew about it. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah, I've heard of this. Like, they had another almost like fantasy RPG that's kind of like almost an MMO type thing.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And so, like, and this was like their other game dev thing that they were doing. So I've heard of it. I heard that it was coming out, but I haven't really jumped into it or tried to play it or anything. So,
well, it sounds like you're amongst the masses, because this thing kind of popped out with a small fizzle. And I think quickly the community kind of said, hey, look, the people that are playing this, there's a lot that's not right here. And it's one thing when you have a gaming community. I know sometimes they rise up and they're like, they don't like, I don't know, some element of the game. But here we're actually talking about, I think, technical difficulties, right? Like actual issues with the game. Amongst the fact that I think they're trying to be, there's a quote in here for it being, all things to all people, right? So actually they have like the mobile online battle arena. They talk about like the hero shooter genre. And so then kind of like an RPG kind of flavor as well. It's very interesting. But so the community did kind of come out and say like, hey, something's got to give. And to their credit, and we've seen, I think, developers make this mistake in the past where they like just push forward and say, we'll fix it as we go. They've kind of clawed it back and they said, yeah, you know what? There's stuff happening here that we're not happy with. And they've kind of rededicated their kind of QA efforts and things like that. So I got to give them some credit. So I'm intrigued to see kind of what comes out, I think, after this process and what that actually looks like, because they've already dumped 2 of the 3 basically game modes. So it'll be interesting to see, will we see those come back? Or are we just going to see a strengthening of the one? But this is good. And I think, other devs could take note.
Yeah, I wonder if this was just a case of trying to bite off a little more than they could handle. Because I mean, this is their second game. Like, let's be real clear. Like, they're a young dev group as far as trying to put this stuff out, and you can have a lot of experienced people, but until like you actually put out those games and those style of games, like you just never know. Like, there are going to be things that you just don't know. So yeah, I mean, I hope that this comes back better than ever. I always want more game devs and more games out because I enjoy those. But yeah, I don't know. This just kind of feels like it just flopped right on its face, but I'm really happy that they have decided to not just abandon the project and pull it back and try and rework it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in other gaming news, Discord has decided to rebrand itself. This is an effort to make the community and the platform more inclusive for everyone. The company is making its chat services more non-gamer friendly. And for anyone that doesn't actually already know what Discord is a platform that allows users to create their own chat servers. So you can voice communicate, text. I actually think that there might be some video stuff going on there now too. But it allows gamers or groups of friends to use Discord to communicate while playing video games via those services. I don't think that it really comes to a shock as anyone. With the pandemic that's going on, Discord has seen a large influx of users from both the gaming and non-gaming side, which is why they're just starting to make this shift. You're not going to see too many changes with the platform itself. There's going to be an attempt to make the platform more user-friendly for everyone, like I've said. So there'll be some like gaming specific jokes that'll probably be removed that they've talked about. But there's some also really positive things that are coming out of this, where they've apparently removed like hundreds of bugs, which is great. They're also making it more streamlined to set up a server, which I know from experience was a bit confusing. And they've also increased their voice and video capacity by 200%, which is just a giant win for everyone. So I hope that this works out for them. Discord has always been rooted pretty deeply in the gaming community, so we'll see how this works out for them, trying to make it more inclusive for everyone. And gamers can be very fickle group, and yeah, I just hope that they don't lose their loyal fan base and audience that they've had since they started. So
yeah, absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. So yeah, I mean, Discord I think is highly regarded as the kind of pinnacle or penultimate communications tool, both within gaming and out. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull in a more mainstream audience.
Yeah, what's interesting too is that after they casually announce this, and then like casually at the end, they're like, "Oh yeah, we just got another $100 million in investor funding as well."
Yeah,
which I was like, "Oh yeah," just like casually, like just throw that in at the end of a press release.
Right, no big deal.
Yeah, just like, oh, okay, cool.
I mean, we do that all the time.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, our company is evaluated at $3 billion. Sounds good.
Yeah, totally cool.
And with that, that's all we have for today. So thank you for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on any of the headlines that we talked about today, you can find them in the description below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the future editions of Tech Talk Tuesday. And while you're at it, go ahead and give us a follow on the social media platforms. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are places where you can find us. And so with that, we'll see you next Tuesday.
I like how I smacked my mic just now.
Oops.